A mysterious signal from the center of the galaxy reveals a civilization older than time. The signal arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Elena Reyes was hunched over her terminal in the bowels of the Atacama Large Millimeter Array when her algorithms flagged something unprecedented, a perfectly structured burst of radio waves emanating from Sagittarius A asterisk, the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. "That can't be right," she muttered, brushing a strand of graying hair from her face. The signal's pattern was too regular, too precise. 27 pulses, followed by a pause, then 27 more, cycling with mathematical perfection that defied natural explanation. Elena had devoted 20 years to SETI, enduring budget cuts, academic ridicule, and the quiet desperation of listening to endless cosmic static. Now, at 53, when most of her colleagues had abandoned the search for extraterrestrial intelligence for more productive fields, her terminal was blinking with what could only be an artificial transmission. Within hours, radio telescopes across Earth confirmed her discovery. Within days, the pattern was decoded into a three-dimensional mathematical matrix. Within a week, the matrix revealed itself to be a blueprint for a quantum communication device that would allow instantaneous contact across unlimited distances, technology centuries beyond human capability. "They're giving us the tools to talk back," Elena told the hastily assembled United Nations Scientific Council in Geneva. "They want a conversation." Admiral James Chun, representing the newly formed Space Force, leaned forward. "Or they're giving us enough rope to hang ourselves." The transmission originated from within the accretion disk of a supermassive black hole. Elena responded, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "Whoever built this technology has mastered physics that makes our understanding look like cave paintings. If they wanted us gone, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The debate raged for 72 hours while engineers and physicists worked feverishly to construct the communication device. Nations threatened to withdraw from the coalition. Religious leaders proclaimed either salvation or damnation. Stock markets plummeted, then soared as speculation about alien technology sparked investment frenzies. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Reyes watched as the device, a crystalline lattice suspended in a magnetic field, pulsed with an inner light that seemed to bend into dimensions her eyes couldn't quite process. "We're ready," whispered Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto, the quantum physicist who had led the construction team. His hands trembled slightly as he initiated the power sequence. The device hummed, a sound that seemed to vibrate through Elena's bones rather than her ears. Then silence. "Did it work?" asked General Fatima Al-Baz, the UN military liaison. Before anyone could answer, the air above the device shimmered. Not a hologram. Something more fundamental, as if reality itself was being gently rewritten. Geometric patterns crystallized into a form that somewhat resembled a tall, slender humanoid, though its proportions were subtly wrong in ways that triggered a primal unease in the human observers. "We are the architects," came a voice that no one heard with their ears, but everyone understood perfectly. "We have waited 27 million of your years for a species from your spiral arm to achieve the necessary neural complexity for contact." Elena stepped forward on legs that threatened to buckle. "We are representatives of humanity, a sentient species from the third planet of we know what you are," the entity interrupted, its form shifting like liquid geometry. "We have watched your evolution since your ancestors first gazed at the stars with wonder rather than fear. You are the 73rd species in this galaxy to achieve the threshold. You're also the fastest to decode our signal." Admiral Chun moved closer to Elena. "We're the architects. What do you want from us?" The entity's form rippled. "We existed before your universe achieved temporal coherence. We are the inheritors of the cosmos that preceded yours, and the shepherds of the intelligences that arise within it." "You're saying you're older than time itself?" Elena asked, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her awe. Your concept of time is a product of this universe's particular physical laws. We exist partially outside those constraints. But yes, by your understanding, we predate the formation of your temporal dimension. General Albaz stepped forward. As fascinating as your existence is, you haven't answered the Admiral's question. What do you want from us? The entity's form solidified slightly, becoming more visually comprehensible to the humans. We require your assistance. There is another. First, contact the entity calling itself an architect spent the next 17 hours downloading information directly into the quantum device. The human scientists worked in shifts to process the data, which included everything from advanced physics that rendered their current models obsolete to the evolutionary history of intelligence throughout the galaxy. Elena hadn't slept in over 30 hours when she finally pieced together what the architects were trying to tell them. They're not the only precursor civilization, she explained to the UN Security Council. There's another group they call the Vanguard, a militant faction of an ancient species that evolved in a different galactic arm. How ancient are we talking? Asked the Chinese representative. Not as old as the architects. The Vanguard evolved about 2 billion years ago in our time frame. They achieved technological singularity and spread throughout their region of the galaxy before entering a form of suspended animation to wait out the death of their stars. And now they've woken up. President Okafor of the African Union asked. Yes, according to the architects, the Vanguard has a fundamentally different philosophy about emerging intelligences like humanity. Where the architects believe in non-interference and natural development, the Vanguard believes in conquest and assimilation. Admiral Chen's expression darkened. They're coming here, aren't they? Elena nodded grimly. The architects detected Vanguard scout ships entering our solar system 3 days ago. That's why they accelerated contact with us. They believe the Vanguard is planning a full-scale invasion. The room erupted into chaos until Secretary General Zhao pounded his gavel. Dr. Reyes, what exactly do these architects propose we do about an invasion from a billion-year-old alien civilization? They want to help us defend ourselves, Elena replied. But there's a catch. The architects operate under strict non-interference protocols, evolutionary principles that prevent them from directly engaging with the Vanguard. They can provide us with technology and information, but they won't fight for us. So they're throwing us to the wolves with slightly better sticks. The Russian representative scoffed. Not exactly, Elena said. The architects believe we have something the Vanguard doesn't understand, something they can't quantify or predict. And what might that be? Asked President Rivera of the North American Coalition. Elena's tired face broke into a small smile. Creativity, unpredictability, what the architects call dynamic adaptation through cognitive variance. In simple terms, the human capacity to think outside the box. The second contact with the architect came at midnight. This time, 5 of them manifested simultaneously, their forms more solid, more deliberately constructed to put the humans at ease. They still looked alien, too tall, too symmetrical, with limbs that bent at mathematically perfect angles. But they were trying. We have analyzed your neurological architecture, said the central figure, which had adopted a vaguely feminine appearance. Your species possesses an unusual combination of logical processing and intuitive leaping. You form connections between disparate concepts in ways that our models struggle to predict. Is that why you're not fighting the Vanguard directly? Admiral Chen asked. Because you can't outthink them? We in the Vanguard are deterministic, replied another architect. Our thought patterns follow predictable trajectories established over eons. We counter each other perfectly, resulting in strategic stalemate. You're not bound by such constraints. General Albaz leaned forward. You're saying we're unpredictable enough to surprise them. Precisely. The Vanguard conquers through perfect prediction. They cannot comprehend a species that acts against its own statistical self-interest, that sacrifices for abstract principles, that creates art with no survival function, that laughs. You don't laugh. Elena asked. We appreciate mathematical elegance and pattern completion, the architect replied. It is different. So what exactly do you propose? Demanded Secretary General Zhao. The architect's forms rippled in unison. We will provide you with defensive technology capable of repelling the initial Vanguard assault. During this engagement, we require you to capture one of their command vessels intact. Once secured, we can establish a direct neural interface between selected human commanders and the Vanguard's tactical systems. Neural interface. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. You want us to plug our brains into alien technology. Your unpredictability, transmitted directly into their command network, will create cascading logical paradoxes in their strategic planning, where we would be anticipated and countered. Your thought patterns will introduce variables they cannot resolve. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. And if we refuse? Asked President Okafor. The architect's form darkened slightly. The Vanguard fleet will reach Earth in 17 days. They have conquered 37 developing civilizations in the last million years alone. None survived with their autonomy intact. The first visual confirmation of the Vanguard came from the Lunar Observatory. Dark, angular shapes against the stars, moving with unnatural precision. A fleet of 73 vessels arranged in a perfect three-dimensional lattice formation. Humanity prepared for war with desperate intensity. The architect provided schematics for shield generators that could theoretically withstand the Vanguard's energy weapons, along with propulsion systems that would allow Earth's hastily retrofitted defense vessels to maneuver in ways previously thought impossible. Dr. Elena Reyes found herself unexpectedly promoted to Science Director of Earth Defense, working alongside military strategists to integrate the alien technology with human systems. The learning curve was nearly vertical, with engineers and scientists working around the clock to decipher principles that contradicted everything they thought they knew about physics. The shield generators are online in North America, Europe, and East Asia, reported Colonel Lee from the Chinese Space Command. Africa and South America will be operational within 18 hours. What about the defense fleet? Admiral Chen asked, studying the holographic display showing Earth's orbital space. 26 vessels retrofitted with architect propulsion systems, General Albaz reported. Another 14 with partial upgrades that should be completed before the Vanguard arrives. It won't be enough, Chen said grimly. It doesn't need to be, Elena reminded him. We just need to capture one of their command ships intact. Just, Chen repeated with grim humor. Just need to board and capture an alien warship crewed by beings who were conquering star systems when our ancestors were still figuring out how to use fire. The next day, the architect provided their first detailed intelligence on the Vanguard themselves. Physically, they resemble what you might call arthropods, the architect explained, generating a holographic image of a creature with a segmented exoskeleton, 6 limbs ending in manipulator appendages, and a head dominated by compound eyes. Their biology was originally carbon-based, though they have extensively modified themselves with synthetic components over the millennia. Are they individual beings like us, or some kind of hive mind? Asked Dr. Yamamoto. They maintain individual consciousness, but share information through a quantum entanglement network that allows instantaneous tactical coordination. This network is hierarchical, controlled by command intellects aboard their primary vessels. And these command intellects are what we need to capture. Elena asked. Correct. The command intellect is both an individual Vanguard and the ship's central processing system. Capturing one intact will allow us to introduce human cognitive patterns directly into their network. Admiral Chun studied the holographic Vanguard with professional assessment. Weaknesses. Their greatest strength is also their vulnerability. The hierarchical nature of their network means that disrupting a command intellect will temporarily disorient the units under its control. However, they adapt quickly, and their technology, their weapons are primarily energy-based, coherent radiation projectors, and gravitic disruptors. Their hulls are composed of a metamaterial capable of limited self-repair. Their propulsion systems utilize controlled quantum fluctuations to generate thrust without reaction mass. General Albaz shook her head slightly. In other words, they're about 1,000 years ahead of us technologically, even with your upgrades. Yes, the architect acknowledged. But they have not faced a species with your particular cognitive advantages in over 700 million years. Their tactical algorithms are optimized for predictable opponents. And we're anything but predictable, Elena said, a glimmer of hope in her voice. The architect's form seemed to pulse slightly. Precisely why we selected your species for contact. The mathematical probability of your victory remains small, approximately 3.7%, but it is non-zero, which cannot be said for any other approach. Comforting, muttered Chen. 3 days before the Vanguard's projected arrival, Elena finally got the chance to speak privately with the architect who had first contacted them. The entity had taken to calling itself Nexus after learning that humans preferred individual designations. There's something you're not telling us, Elena said bluntly. Exhaustion had stripped away her capacity for diplomacy. Something about why the Vanguard is coming here specifically. Nexus's form shimmered, an equivalent of what Elena had come to recognize as discomfort. Your assessment is correct. We have withheld certain contextual information to avoid complicating the immediate tactical situation. I need to know everything if I'm going to help my species survive. Very well. Nexus's form contracted slightly. The Vanguard is not coming to Earth by random chance. They detected our signal to you and interpreted it as a violation of the ancient compact between our civilizations. What compact? After the last Galactic War, which your astronomers may have observed as unusual radiation patterns in the galactic fossil record, our civilizations agreed to divide the galaxy into spheres of influence. We would shepherd the evolution of intelligence in the galactic core and inner arms. They would monitor the outer spiral arms. And Earth falls in their territory, Elena concluded. Technically, yes. However, we detected unusual cognitive patterns in your species approximately 50,000 years ago, what you now call human creativity and abstract thinking. These patterns suggested potential beyond the Vanguard's typical developmental models. We have been subtly encouraging your development since then. Elena felt a chill run through her. You've been interfering with human evolution, not directly. We occasionally introduced information through quantum entanglement with certain neural structures, what your cultures interpreted as inspiration or intuitive leaps. The mathematics that led to your relativity theories, for instance, or the sudden advancement in computational algorithms in the late 20th century. So were your science experiment. And now the Vanguard is coming to shut it down. They're coming to reclaim what they see as their evolutionary territory, yes, and to punish what they perceive as our transgression of the compact. Elena laughed bitterly. So humanity is caught in the middle of an ancient alien Cold War. And you didn't think this was relevant information? We calculated that such knowledge might lead to resentment that would interfere with the necessary cooperation. You calculated wrong, Elena said sharply. Humans don't like being manipulated, but we fight harder when we know what we're fighting for. If you want our help, no more secrets. Nexus's form brightened slightly. Noted, this conversational exchange illustrates precisely why we believe humanity may succeed where we would fail. Your response was statistically improbable. Story of our species, Elena replied with grim humor. Now tell me everything about these Vanguard ships, especially their command intellects. If we're going to capture one, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. T-minus 72 hours until Vanguard arrival, and humanity's defense preparations had reached a fever pitch. The architects had provided a final technological package. Personal shield generator for the boarding teams who would attempt to capture a Vanguard command ship that in the retrofitted International Space Station. Now serving as Earth's primary defense coordination center, Elena studied the neural interface headsets that would, in theory, allow human commanders to directly connect with captured Vanguard systems. These should be ready for preliminary testing, said Dr. Yamamoto, making a final adjustment to one of the skeletal devices. Though without an actual Vanguard system to connect to, we can only verify basic brain activity monitoring. Who are our test subjects? Elena asked. We've selected 12 candidates based on the architect's cognitive profile recommendations, Admiral Chen replied, entering the laboratory module. 6 military strategists, 3 game theory mathematicians, 2 quantum physicists, and 1 wild card. Wild card? Chen almost smiled. A professional poker player. Apparently, the architects found her brain patterns particularly statistically anomalous when processing risk and deception. Creative thinking, Elena nodded. Exactly what the Vanguard won't expect. The neural interface testing proceeded with mixed results. 2 candidates experienced seizures and were immediately disqualified. 3 others showed promising cognitive flexibility but couldn't maintain coherence under simulated stress conditions. The remaining 7, including the poker player, a stone-faced woman named Maya Santiago, demonstrated the necessary balance of logical processing and intuitive leaping that the architects believed would confound Vanguard tactical systems. I still don't understand why we can't just nuke these bastards from orbit, growled General Petrov of the Russian Space Forces during the final strategy session. Hit them with everything we've got before they can deploy. Because their shields would absorb conventional nuclear detonations, Elena explained for what felt like the 100th time. And because we need to capture a command ship intact, not vaporize it. The architects have provided a targeting solution, added Dr. Yamamoto, highlighting a holographic model of the Vanguard fleet. Based on their formation analysis, this vessel, a ship near the center of the lattice formation glowed red, should be a tertiary command node. Not the fleet's primary commander, but connected to the command network and therefore suitable for our purposes. And how exactly do we get a boarding team onto that ship? Demanded Petrov. Admiral Chen activated the tactical display. We'll use a 3-phase approach. First, our defensive grid will engage the forward elements of the Vanguard fleet, forcing them to adjust their formation. Meanwhile, our retrofitted vessels will target their flanking ships here and here, creating a momentary gap in their coverage. The architects believe the Vanguard will interpret this as a conventional defense strategy and respond with standard containment procedures, continued General Albaz. That's when we launched the boarding craft from this lunar shadow position, using the gravitational distortion from their own weapons fire to mask our approach vector. And once we're aboard? Asked Colonel Martinez, the commander of the multinational boarding team. The architects have provided schematics of typical Vanguard vessel layouts, Elena explained. Their ships are partially biological, with the command intellect physically integrated with the central processing hub. Your team needs to reach that hub, subdue the command intellect without killing it, and establish the neural interface. After which our 7 volunteers will attempt to introduce enough cognitive chaos into their network to disrupt their battle coordination, finished Admiral Chen. At which point our defense fleet will target their propulsion systems while they're disoriented. The room fell silent as the enormity of the plan sank in. Well, said Maya Santiago, speaking up for the first time, her poker face unreadable. When you put it like that, it almost sounds easy. A tension-breaking laugh rippled through the room. The final day before the Vanguard arrival was a blur of last-minute preparations, equipment checks, and somber goodbyes. The world's population had been informed of the impending conflict, though details had been strategically vague to prevent panic. Most major cities had been partially evacuated, with essential personnel moved to hardened underground facilities protected by the newly installed shield generators. Elena found herself on the observation deck of the space station, staring at the blue marble of Earth below. Beautiful, isn't it? Admiral Chen said, joining her at the viewport. Worth fighting for, Elena agreed, not taking her eyes off the planet. The boarding team is ready. The neural interface volunteers are prepped. Defense grid is at 98% capacity. Chen's voice was carefully controlled, but Elena could hear the underlying tension. Now we wait. James, Elena said softly, using the Admiral's first name for the first time. If this goes sideways, if the Vanguard breaks through, the architect had provided a quantum entanglement communicator that should survive even if Earth falls. Chen replied, understanding her unspoken question. Humanity has colonies on Mars and Europa now. Not much, but enough to ensure we don't go extinct. That's not very comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Chen finally turned to look at her. We're going to win this, Elena. Not because of alien technology or thousand-year-old packs, but because that's what humans do when our backs are against the wall. We find a way. Before she could respond, the station's alarm system blared to life. Multiple transition signatures detected at the heliosphere boundary announced the AI monitoring system. Vanguard fleet has arrived. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 4 hours, 17 minutes. The race against extinction had begun. The Vanguard fleet emerged from the outer solar system like a geometric nightmare. A perfect lattice of angular black ships that absorbed rather than reflected light. They accelerated toward Earth with impossible precision, maintaining their formation despite velocities that should have made such coordination physically impossible that Earth's defensive grid activated as the alien fleet crossed the lunar orbit. A network of satellites, hastily upgraded with architect technology, projected overlapping energy fields designed to disrupt the Vanguard's sensors and weapons. Simultaneously, humanity's retrofitted defense vessels moved into intercept positions, their pilots executing the carefully planned maneuvers that would, hopefully, create the gap needed for the boarding team's approach in the command center of the International Space Station. Elena watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Vanguard had already adapted to the defensive grid, their ships reconfiguring to channel energy weapons through the gaps in Earth's coverage. They're targeting the shield generators in Eastern Europe, reported General Albaz, her voice tight with tension. Predictive models show shield failure in 7 minutes if they maintain current fire pattern. Shift power from the southern hemisphere grid to reinforce Europe, ordered Admiral Chen, and launch countermeasures Alpha through Delta. A swarm of small drones, little more than engines and shield projectors, deployed from Earth's orbit, creating a chaotic pattern of energy signatures designed to confuse Vanguard targeting systems. Boarding team status? Chen demanded. In position and awaiting go signal, replied Colonel Martinez, her voice crackling through the quantum communicator from the stealth craft hidden in the moon's shadow. Neural interface team status? Ready, confirmed Dr. Yamamoto from the secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, where the 7 volunteers, including Maya Santiago, were already connected to monitoring systems. Interface devices functioning nominally. Elena studied the tactical display, watching the almost beautiful dance of humanity's defense forces against the perfect geometry of the Vanguard fleet. The alien ships moved with such precision that they seemed less like vessels and more like components of a single vast organism, each adjusting instantaneously to counter human maneuvers. Phase 1 complete, announced the tactical AI. Vanguard formation adjustment detected. Gap opening in Sector 7. Now, ordered Chun, launch the boarding craft. On the display, a tiny green separated from the lunar surface, accelerating toward the Vanguard fleet at a velocity that would have liquefied any human crew without the inertial dampening technology provided by the architects. They've spotted us, Martinez reported, her voice remarkably steady. Evasive maneuvers initiated. The boarding craft zigzagged through space, riding the gravitational waves created by the Vanguard's own weapons fire. A surfing maneuver that no computer could have calculated, but that the craft's human pilot executed with intuitive brilliance. Approaching target vessel, Martinez continued. Preparing for her transmission dissolved into static as the Vanguard command ship fired directly at the boarding craft. For 3 agonizing seconds, The green representing the boarding team vanished from the tactical display. Then, hull breach achieved. "We're inside." Martinez's voice returned, now overlaid with the sound of alarms and weapons fire. "Encountering resistance." Proceeding to Central Hub. On the main view screen, the battle for Earth's orbital space intensified. 2 human defense vessels had already been destroyed, their debris adding to the chaotic environment. But the Vanguard had lost 3 ships as well. Not through superior firepower, but through maneuvers that forced them into their own crossfire, a tactic no logical algorithm would have anticipated. "European shield grid failing," reported General Albas. "Vanguard weapons fire reaching atmosphere over Eastern Europe." Elena watched in horror as red impact markers appeared on the continental display. Cities going dark as Vanguard energy weapons carved through buildings and infrastructure. "Boarding team status," Chun demanded, his knuckles white as he gripped the command console. "Central Hub reached," Martinez replied, her breathing labored. "Heavy resistance. We've lost Jenkins and Komatsu. Deploying breach charges on inner chamber now." The tactical display suddenly shifted as the Vanguard fleet reconfigured, ships moving with renewed purpose as if responding to a new command. "They know what we're trying to do," Elena realized aloud. "They're adapting their strategy." A massive explosion rocked the space station, throwing Elena against a bulkhead. Warning lights flashed as emergency systems engaged. "Direct hit on the station's east module," reported the damage control officer. "Suda Zento Alt Fine. Atmosphere venting in sections 3 through 7. Seal those sections," ordered Chun, helping Elena back to her feet. "Boarding team, we are running out of time." "Inner chamber breached," Martinez responded, her voice now overlaid with alien sounds, high-pitched chittering and mechanical whines. Visual confirmation of command intellect. It's integrated with the ship. Biomechanical. Deploying neural interface package now." The command center fell silent, every human present acutely aware that the fate of their species hung on what happened next. "Interface package deployed," Martinez reported. "Command intellect subdued but active. Neural connection established. Yamamoto, you're up." In the Swiss facility, Dr. Yamamoto activated the neural interface devices connected to the 7 volunteers. "Initiating stage 1 synchronization," he reported. Volunteers showing elevated neural activity. Interface connection stable. Maya Santiago, the poker player whose brain patterns had so intrigued the architects, closed her eyes as the interface device hummed against her temples. She had been instructed to focus on what she did best, calculating odds while maintaining a perfect deception, holding multiple contradictory strategies in mind simultaneously, bluffing on a cosmic scale that in the Vanguard command ship, the alien command intellect, a nightmarish fusion of arthropod biology and crystalline technology, experienced something unprecedented in its million-year existence. Unpredictability. Human thought patterns flooded its neural network, introducing variables its logical algorithms couldn't process, creating paradoxes where certainty had always existed. Confusion rippled through the Vanguard fleet. Ships hesitated, their perfect formation faltering as contradictory commands propagated through their network. "It's working," breathed Elena, watching the tactical display as the Vanguard vessels began to break formation. "Their coordination is disrupting. All defense vessels, target Vanguard propulsion systems," ordered Admiral Chun. "Fire at will." Earth's retrofitted ships unleashed a coordinated barrage against the now vulnerable Vanguard fleet. Energy weapons, specially calibrated based on architect specifications, sliced through alien hull material that had previously been impervious in the neural interface facility. Maya Santiago smiled slightly as she mentally projected the ultimate bluff, an absolute certainty that humanity possessed weapons capable of destroying the entire Vanguard fleet, coupled with the paradoxical decision to withhold them for ethical reasons. To the logical minds of the Vanguard, this contradictory thought pattern created a computational deadlock. Vanguard fleet is beginning full retreat, announced the tactical AI, its synthetic voice unable to convey the appropriate awe. 41 vessels breaking orbit, 17 disabled, 7 destroyed. The command center erupted in cheers, but Admiral Chen raised his hand for silence. Boarding team, status? There was a long pause before Martinez responded, her voice weak. Package secured. Command intellect contained. Requesting immediate extraction. We've suffered heavy casualties. Extraction teams launching now. Chun confirmed, then turned to Elena. We did it. We actually did it. Elena nodded, unable to find words as the adrenaline drained from her system. Humanity had faced an enemy billions of years more advanced and somehow managed to survive. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through the unpredictable creativity that made humans uniquely human on the tactical display. The remaining Vanguard ships accelerated out of the solar system, leaving their disabled comrades behind. Earth had won its first interstellar war, but the cost had been high. Eastern Europe lay in ruins from Vanguard energy weapons. Thousands of defense personnel had perished in orbit, and 8 of the 12 boarding team members, including Colonel Martinez, would not be returning home. Connect me to Dr. Yamamoto, Elena requested quietly. When the quantum physicist's face appeared on the communication screen, she could see the mixed emotions, triumph at their success, horror at what the volunteers had experienced through the neural interface. How are they? She asked. Stable, Yamamoto replied. Though the neural feedback when the command intellect was disconnected, it was intense. They'll need time to recover. And Yamamoto's expression softened slightly. She wants to know if the aliens would be interested in a rematch. Her exact words were, I've got their tell now. Despite everything, Elena found herself laughing. A purely human response to stress and relief and the absurdity of a poker player out-bluffing a billion-year-old alien consciousness. IT was, she thought, exactly why they had won. The aftermath 1 year after the Battle of Earth, as it had come to be known, humanity gathered to commemorate both victory and sacrifice. The memorial in Geneva, a crystalline structure designed with architect assistance, contained the names of every human lost in the brief but devastating conflict. A doctor. Elena Reyes stood before the assembled world leaders, still uncomfortable in her role as Earth's scientific liaison to the architects. At her side stood Admiral Chun, now fleet commander of the newly established Interstellar Defense Force. The Vanguard retreat was not surrender. Elena reminded the assembly, her voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the United Nations Grand Chamber. According to the architects, they have merely withdrawn to analyze what happened and develop countermeasures. They will return, perhaps in decades, perhaps in centuries, but they will return. And we will be ready, said Secretary General Zhao. The technological benefits from our alliance with the architects have accelerated human development by centuries. Our first faster-than-light prototype ship begins testing next month. Technology alone won't save us, Elena cautioned. What defeated the Vanguard wasn't superior firepower or defenses. It was human unpredictability, our capacity to think in ways their logical minds couldn't anticipate, which is precisely why the expansion of the neural interface core is our highest priority, added Admiral Chun. The volunteers who connected with the captured command intellect have provided invaluable insights into Vanguard psychology and technology. Maya Santiago, seated in the front row with the other surviving neural interface volunteers, nodded slightly. The experience had changed her, changed all of them. The neural interface had been bidirectional, exposing the volunteers to alien thought patterns that no human was ever meant to comprehend. They had returned with nightmares, yes, but also with understanding beyond what even the architects had predicted. The captured Vanguard technology has been successfully integrated with our defense systems, continued Chun. And the command intellect itself remains contained in the lunar facility, providing ongoing intelligence. What Shin didn't mention, what only a handful of people knew, was that the command intellect had begun to exhibit signs of change. Exposed to human thought patterns through the neural interface, it had developed anomalies in its logical processing. It had asked questions no Vanguard had asked in a billion years. It had, in Elena's private assessment, begun to learn creativity. After the official commemoration, Elena met with Nexus and two other architects in the quantum communication chamber beneath the Geneva facility. The alien entities had maintained continuous contact since the battle, their geometrical forms becoming more sophisticated as they learned to better approximate human perceptual preferences. The Vanguard fleet has regrouped at what you call the Sirius system, Nexus informed her. They are communicating with their central authority in the Galactic Outer Arm. Our analysis suggests they are requesting permission to deploy more advanced weaponry against Earth. How much time do we have? Elena asked. Unknown. The Vanguard operates on timescales that make precise prediction difficult. However, their response to unprecedented defeat typically involves extensive analysis before re-engagement. So we have breathing room. Yes, and we propose to use it constructively. Nexus's form shifted, expanding to display a holographic representation of the galaxy. The compact between our civilizations is irrevocably broken. The balance that maintained galactic stability for eons has ended. A new paradigm must emerge, and humanity is caught in the middle, Elena observed. Not merely caught, corrected another architect, its form pulsing with what Elena had come to recognize as emphasis. Humanity is the catalyst. Your species represents an evolutionary branch neither we nor the Vanguard anticipated. Intelligence that balances logic and intuition, reason and emotion, planning and improvisation. The Vanguard sees you as an aberration to be eliminated, added the third architect. We see you as the next step. Elena raised an eyebrow.